So we've had some pretty shocking moments this NBA season. Obviously, the shocker to end all shockers, the Luka Doncic trade that we had midseason. But one that happened just a couple days ago, Grizzlies firing Taylor Jenkins with, 9 games left in the season?
Don't know if I've ever seen anything like this. The Western Conference is just crazy. Like, early in the season, we made a video, the Grizzlies were playing great. Now everything is just falling apart in Memphis.
Before we start talking about the Grizzlies, if you haven't already, make sure you give this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So yeah, the Grizzlies going into this season were one of the biggest question marks, I'd say, in the NBA. They were coming off a 27-win season that was basically just derailed by Ja's suspension and then subsequent injuries. Coming into this year, people were divided on whether they could return to being a contender or whether they'd kind of regress to middle of the pack in the Western Conference. Still been a season of ups and downs for them. I mean, Ja has again struggled with injuries, but the Grizzlies just a couple weeks ago were 42-24 in the 3rd seed in the West. I don't think anyone bought them as a serious contender or anything, but I think that's a pretty successful season, 3rd seed in the West. But on March 28th, shocked the NBA world when they fired Taylor Jenkins with 3 weeks left in the season.
It's just absolutely shocking. You get the notification, you're like, what? We've got some pretty shocking firings just in the past 2 seasons. Of course, Mike Brown got fired earlier this season, but that was a Kings team that was 5 games under 500. Kind of felt like they stagnated a bit after that really good season 2 years ago. You had Adrian Griffin get fired out of nowhere. So maybe we're just coming more accustomed to this, and this is just the NBA now where a guy can be your all-time winning head coach and just get fired out of nowhere. But the Grizzlies, they're still in the thick of the Western Conference playoff race. It wasn't like the Kings, so they're deep in the play-in, trying to fight back up. They still had a chance at home court. That's usually not a place where you fire a guy, but that's what they did. And at the time of this recording, they're tied in losses with Minnesota and the Clippers, so they could easily slide down to the play-in. But for most of the season, they were a top 4 team and one of the best teams in the West.
Yeah, it's rare enough when a coach with a solid winning record gets fired halfway through the season, or at the very latest at the trade deadline, an Adrian Griffin or a David Blatt, a situation like that. That's rare. I read on ESPN, this is only the 2nd time in NBA history a coach has been fired after the 70-game mark when his team had a winning record. To fire a guy this close to the playoffs, it's almost unprecedented. And I guess the logic from the front office was, okay, we're probably going to be a 1st-round exit and we're going to fire him after that anyway, so what's the point in waiting? And maybe a new voice can turn it around in the nenext couple of weeks. Well, 0-3 since they fired him. Just got torched by Steph and the Warriors, and also Ja maybe did another gun gesture on the court. Now, Buddy Hield did it first. I also don't care that Buddy Hield did it first. Ja, given his history, he's got to be smart enough to not do that. It hasn't exactly turned things around for them. And I'll be fair then, those losses are to the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Warriors. 3 good teams. Also 3 games at home. If you're fighting for playoff position, you don't want to go 0-3 at home, even if you're playing 3 good teams. And, now they got a 3-game road trip starting in Miami, which quietly has won 5 games in a row, so that's not going to be a gimme. And after that, Charlotte is really the only easy game left on their schedule. Everyone else is fighting for playoff position. So apparently, according to reports, this all just stems from a year-long philosophical battle between Jenkins and the front office, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And it all started this offseason when the Grizzlies brought in 2 relatively unknown assistants, one from Paris. They brought in this Izalo guy from Paris. By the way, had to pay a 7-figure buyout to Paris basketball to bring him in. And also Noah LaRoche, a consultant with the Spurs. And to make room for the new guys, the Grizzlies made Jenkins basically fire his entire assistant coaching staff.
That's just insane. I didn't know about all this. I had to catch up. And now you hear the news, he gets fired and you're just shocked, and now you're kind of learning more. Dude was forced to fire his entire assistant coaching staff. They bring in these new guys on huge deals. For assistant coaches, 7 figures is crazy, even in the modern NBA. So now it's kind of making more sense.
Especially unproven assistant coaches.
Yeah, they were basically done with him, but they wanted to quietly make this move happen. And the Grizzlies management, they wanted this new offensive system. So let's talk about how how that turned out. It's a system designed to utilize pace, move the ball quickly, limit the amount of on-ball screens and dribble handoffs. In fact, like throughout, like since they've been tracking these stats, like this is the lowest we've seen in pick and rolls and like these dribble handoffs, which is just crazy because the NBA now it's pick and roll. It's what you do. To be fair though, on paper, that's not the worst idea. I mean, advanced stats show Ja is not a great pick and roll player. Dude makes his money in transition. So the offense kind of makes sense. Like you accelerate the pace, you create more space for Ja. He just got to beat players off dribble, which he can do. Like it makes sense on paper. And to start the season, like everything was going great. They were confusing teams with this new system. Jaren Jackson was having this career year. They were the second seed in early February. Like everything was working. Even like Draymond Green after a game, they interviewed him and he was impressed by the offense and was even a little bit confused because it's not something you see in the NBA. Like I said, a ton of pick and roll switches in the NBA at the moment. And then a couple things started to go wrong. And one of the key things, injuries again have killed these teams. Like Ja once again is missing games. It makes sense. Like you have this great system, teams start to figure it out. And then on top of that, your best players are injured. Like you're going to lose more games.
Yeah. The other thing that started to happen is like you said it, the best teams in the league really started to figure them out. Like the Grizzlies haven't beaten a team that currently has a winning record since February 2nd when they beat the Bucks. And like, yeah, you bring in this new, fancy offensive system that players haven't seen. It's going to be effective at first, but once teams have a chance to get their hands on footage and figure things out, the good teams that are fighting for playoff position, they've basically figured the Grizzlies out and the Grizzlies can't beat them anymore. So when they started struggling with the new system, Jenkins was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to, calling more pick and rolls. That also didn't turn them around because I mean, yeah, you're trying to go back and make a radical change to a different offensive scheme mid-season, even if it's one the players are more familiar with. Like, not surprised really that didn't work. Their defense has slipped in the second half of the season. Interesting stat here, the Grizzlies are 11th in defensive rating, and yet they're 25th in opponents' points per game. So that just shows the pace that this team plays at and how many possessions they give their opponents, where you can have that high of a defensive rating and yet still be bottom 5 in the league in opponents' points per game. So again, my thing is like, yeah, they're struggling, and yeah, maybe they were going to move on from Jenkins in the offseason, but like, why do this now? Like, what are the Grizzlies going to do in the next 2 weeks that's going to justify not just letting him finish out the season? Like, are they just waving the white flag on the year, being like, oh, it, we're going out in the first round either way, might as well just pull the plug now because we're going to pull it after the season? Like, the timing to me is the most interesting thing. Like, fire the guy the day after you get bounced in 5 by the Lakers, that's fine. We'll pay for his airfare to Portland first class so he can interview for the Blazers job, right? Like,
I mean, he's coaching Portland next year. We know.
Absolutely, right?
He is.
But one sentiment I've seen from like a lot of Grizzlies fans especially is that Jenkins wasn't going to be the guy to lead the Grizzlies to a championship. But honestly, I don't think the Grizzlies roster is really championship material. Like, it's good. It's got plenty of talent. And if they made, a big move here or there, maybe they could ascend to that, upper tier of the NBA. But OKC, Cleveland, Boston, Denver, the Lakers, does anyone really see the Grizzlies as being in their class? Because I don't.
Yeah, and like a lot of it recently, you start playing poor, people are going to blame the head coach. That's just what happens. Like Molly Morrison, Grizzlies fan, does a great job covering the NBA, put out a video talking about the Grizzlies offensive scheme, and she made the point, like, you draft Zach Edey, you draft this behemoth of a player in the first round. Zach Edey's been pretty good. Like, why not incorporate him into more pick and rolls? He seems like Ja and him in a pick and roll would work really well. And she put the blame on Taylor Jenkins, which, again, to be fair, like, you'd think the guy orchestrating the offense would be the head coach, but it sounds like Taylor Jenkins, from all reports, actually wants to be running some of these pick and rolls.
That's why he went back to it when they started struggling.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, I would more so blame the front office because, like, this very much feels like the 2013 Lakers, when they hired D'Antoni instead of Phil Jackson, because Jim Buss wanted, like, the Lakers to play like the Showtime Lakers of the 80s, despite the fact he had the oldest roster in the league and guys who couldn't shoot. But he's like, no, this is what I want, right? I want the team to play like this, so I'm going to hire the coach that's going to make us play like this, even if our roster isn't built to play like that. So again, she put the blame on Taylor Jenkins. I would put the blame on the front office, because from everything we've heard, it's the front office that was like, okay, Jenkins, we're going to fire your entire assistant coaching pool, and we're bringing in these 2 guys that are going to run the show.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense in hindsight. I was thinking about it like, why the hell did they draft Zach Edey? Not that that it was a bad pick, but that doesn't make any sense in hindsight. Let's draft this like 7'4" massive tree of a human being to run this super fast-paced offense. Like, doesn't make any sense. But to sum everything up, like, why fire Taylor Jenkins right now?
Yeah.
Why not wait till the offseason? Like, I understand if it's, you know, around the All-Star break. Things aren't going well, you know, maybe we bring in an interim, it kind of sparks some energy. Like, sometimes that happens. You have the interim, there's some energy there. We're 2 weeks before the damn playoffs begin, and now they got a new head coach. I mean, either way, they were probably a first-round exit, but at this point, I'm penciling them in. Whoever they're playing, Grizzlies are losing, and even at this point, you start to look at things like they're probably going to be in the play-in. There's a scenario where they miss the playoffs entirely, which is insane.
They're what, a half game ahead of the Clippers? So yeah, if they fall behind the Clippers, they'd have to play a play-in game in LA. And then after that, either the Mavericks or the Suns. If KD's back for the Suns, I mean, you never know. Maybe KD goes nuclear, gives you 50, and it's just, sorry, too bad. And then the Mavericks, you tell me they're what, 4-1 with AD in the lineup? Yeah, so catch them on the wrong day. Yeah, you could be out of the playoffs entirely. And I think ultimately, they should have just fired him this offseason. Like, yeah, they probably would have got some pushback from it because like, oh, how could you fire the guy after this season where, you know, you were wrecked by injuries and, you know, Ja's suspension and whatnot. But this is an overused term. It's obvious the front office just wanted to go in a different direction. They wanted to do something else where Taylor Jenkins wasn't the coach to do that for them. They wanted this new offensive scheme. They wanted, you know, these young guys to implement this free-flowing offensive system. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's your prerogative. But don't cut your coach's balls off right before the season starts. Like, these reports came out that, like, Jenkins lost the locker room. Imagine coming into training camp as a player and Jenkins is like, okay, guys, right, got this new offensive system. It's great.
Go.
It's also not mine. It's these two guys, right?
Right.
They're gonna do the whole thing. I'm just here because.
Yeah,
right?
that is absolutely insane.
How can you as a player buy into what your coach is saying when from the beginning it's obvious? Because players aren't stupid. They can see through this stuff. Like, how do you buy into your coach when it's obvious from the beginning that the stuff isn't even the coach's?
Yeah, I just feel bad for Taylor Jenkins. Dude's gonna have a job. Like, let's not get that wrong. If it's not in Portland, maybe it's in Sacramento. People even floated like if Greg Popovich has to retire due to the medical reasons, he's going to be coaching San Antonio. Like, he's going to have a job. The Grizzlies, on the other hand, it's kind of sad to see where they are at this time because they had so much potential. Ja and Jaren Jackson, even like throwing Dylan Brooks. And then, you know, the past couple seasons haven't gone as planned. But this season, everything was coming back. They had these great rookies coming in, a young team. Jaren Jackson Jr. having a career year. And then all of a sudden they're back to, you know, the drawing board, got to rethink things. So we'll see how it goes for Memphis, but not looking too good at the moment.
I will say though, Taylor Jenkins, you're going to love Portland. Yeah. Great place. I've still got my real estate license. I could show you some great places out in Lake Oswego, you know, lovely place.
Underrated food scene.
Exactly. You're going to love it.
We'll show you around, buddy.
You will love it here. That's the video, guys. What do you think the Grizzlies are going to do the rest of the season? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.